there was another Humble Bumble offer for $1 audiobooks, so I grabbed the full 18 on offer and decided to take a break from the Horus Heresy and check out what's going down 10,000 years later with the Indomitus Crusade, because I listened to the audio by a Border Prince about Guilliman's return and am intrigued to see how things are going. Okay, Indomitus, in we go. Ultramarine Primaris are on the loose, bumbling around on this strike cruiser called the Ithaca's Vengeance, doing their thing. They are in this debris field. Now, they are attached to Crusade Fleet Quintus, which has been called the Cursed Fleet, because everything keeps going wrong. Outbreaks of disease, warp drive malfunctions, easy missions becoming grueling wars of attrition. And like on the Rotaran in Deep Space Nine, it's gotten to people. They feel jinxed, everyone is down, superstition is resulting in a self-fulfilling prophecy, people in and without the fleet just think they are cursed. Meanwhile, Abaddon has snagged a Blackstone fortress and is cruising around the galaxy, blowing up planets and doing the standard supervillain thing of gloating from the command deck as a planet melts. It's like he's been reading Alan Moore's So You Want to Be a Supervillain. And there's a standard flunky bringing information with the weedy, raspy, master voice that they all seem to have. Seriously, do you post vacancies for these traits and recruit based on vocal mannerisms? The ad in the local newspaper or on LinkedIn reads, "Henchmen and flunkies needed for new volcano lair." You turn up and you get the post based on your delivery. Name? Silas Grovelbat Master. Cringing henchman it is, possible bringer of bad news. And you, what do you want to do? I like work out and stuff. Dumbass sentry it is. And how about you, dear fellow? Well, I just want to kill things, really. I just want to kick butt and look badass. Aha, possible personal guard, maybe a champion. Someone posted outside my quarters to give a minor monologue to the approaching heroes, a warm-up before my main monologue when they breach my inner sanctum. And you, my dear, what do you want to do? Well, I just want to meet new people. Femme fatale, go get your skimpy skin-tight black outfit from wardrobe. And you, what are your hobbies? I just like taking things apart to see how they work. Mad scientist and developer of doomsday weapons it is. So, they find this big honking ship, and rather than blast it, they are going to board it and try and reach the Strategium and get information as to why it's here and what's going on. We get the description of the various Ultramarine squads like intercessors and such, which was really good because my knowledge of Ultramarines pretty much comes from playing against them on the tabletop, and their differences there are more, this one has a bolter, and this one has a heavy bolter, and this one has a chainsword, and he has a bolt pistol. But here we see the differences are far more acute because the ones who go in first have all these sensors that allow them to see through walls and scope things out and transmit it to the others. Then you have the close combat fellows backed up by bolter fire and then snipers at the back. There's a bit more subtlety, which of course can't properly be explored with a D6. It's actually a really well thought out, effective, properly engineered force. They unleash a barrage at the ship, which is way more effective than they thought it would be, and they pretty much disable it. The gunships aim for the main hangar because the door is just hanging off its hinges and is wide open, and it's mutants galore when they disembark. People with a duck face, people with a pig butt, and all these other freaks. So, the Primaris are fighting their way to the Strategium. Back on the ship they are having a chat and are definitely suspicious that this was all just a little too easy. When they unleashed their barrage, the void shields weren't actually active. That's a bit weird. They analyse it some more and discover that the initial hit took out the reactor, and further examination shows that the reactor was going to explode, so they shut it down themselves. Option 1. Assured death when the reactor pops. Option 2. A very slim chance of survival in hand-to-hand with Primaris. Not much of a choice, but at least they get a roll of the dice on it. But then this smart lass notices that the plasma ejections that indicated the reactor fail were done deliberately. So in other words, they faked a reactor spike and the need to shut down to avoid a devastating explosion, explaining the void shield shutdown and their overall helplessness that enticed them to board the vessel. And the torn off door wasn't done by the Ultramarines. It was already like that. It was an invitation. Very dog soldiers.
I made a gap in enemy lines. You were good enough to spot it and predictable enough to go for it.
But the guy in charge of the force was a bit more canny than that and chose to go a different route to the strategium, avoiding the bottleneck that would have funneled them into the main force of mutants. And a ship this size has about 20% the normal amount of life forms that should be on board, so it's clearly bait. I like the multiple layers. You forfeit a plan according to your tactical ability or IQ. Woo! We took out a vastly superior foe with a single awesome lucky hit. Super accuracy in the house. Get in there, lads. Use that open door to the right. The one right there that's hanging open. That was fortunate. Their reactor got hit and they had to close it down to stop it popping. Well, we're in, lads. Get into them. That plasma discharge over there looks pretty suspicious. I'm not sure about this, but the doors are open, they are helpless, so I guess we're in. Just keep your eyes peeled. I think they dropped their shields and shut down on purpose. Let's go in through an alternate route. This is pretty sus. I mean, this whole thing seems to have been engineered to get us on board and into a trap. And while we're going to the strategium, let's not go the obvious route. Let's take this a little roundabout way. And then they pick up the signal of multiple engines coming in. Not multiple ships, multiple cores in one big monster vessel. It's a ship hunter and killer, and the vengeance is for orbital support and boarding actions. The ship they are facing uses its first barrage to take out your voice shields, and then it carves you up with its lances. So, it's okay guys, you need to get out of there toot sweet. We're no match for this enemy ship, but also we aren't going to just leave you behind. The narrator has got some good range. Well, maybe not range, but he does have a few fun accents. I think I detected a Scotsman in the crew. Maybe because, you know, Games Workshop being an English company, we aren't going to get American accent. Yo, we're going in! No New Yorkers or Californians, or for the Emperor in Mexican. I guess Scottish is a good inoffensive fallback. You do an Italian, German or French accent, you could piss people off. Mais oui, for the Emperor, ho ho ho. That's a some spicy heresy. Doing a Scottish accent, you're not taking a piss, you're just trying to do Scotty from Star Trek. But then, if that works, what about Inspector Clouseau? Could you say the same there? Anyway, in the fight, this guy Indomitus, with a storm shield, is wailing on the mutants that are just hurling themselves at the Marines, careless of whether they live or die. They've probably led the most appalling and grueling lives, starved, worked relentlessly, preyed upon, and then along comes chaos and offers a swanky, pleasurable, idyllic afterlife. I just watched 12 Strong, and the lead Afghan dude, the one fighting the Taliban, he's saying that look at this place, it's almost desert, we eke the hardest, harshest life imaginable from this unforgiving land, and the reason people sign up so readily for these hardcore groups is because if you do this, go down as a fanatic devotee, you'll get a paradise as a reward. If you don't, you'll just die and that's it. A long life of hardship and you just end, or a long life of hardship, die for the cause, and it's heaven forever. Weird that Chaos has caught some hint of that. I think that's why the Fremen in June resonated with me so much. There's lots of desert culture intertwined in there, but even when they were worshipping Muad'Dib, he wasn't really a god to them. He was the unifying figurehead, the inspiration, something to rally behind. Dying for the cause is dying for your people, not to earn an afterlife. The Chaos Cultist and the Terrorist are devoting to their deity to get something out of it. If I do this and this, I want this and this in return. Kind of like some sort of spiritual transaction. Those who worship the God Emperor in June and the God Emperor Muad'Dib, yeesh, Games Workshop tax a lot of stuff from other sources. People aren't following them to get something, they're following them because it's the cause, it's the right thing to do, the decent path. I haven't seen anything as of yet that suggests worshipping the Emperor gets you life eternal in some sort of heaven. You just devote yourself to the God Emperor because, well, he's a god and we're here to serve him and thereby try and save humanity. I guess you could also say the same about the Japanese Emperor as well. In World War II, people fought and died in his name, bellowing their devotion, sacrificing themselves, but not for access to paradise, rather just because service to the Emperor is what you do, and it seems that's the Imperium way as well. Anyways, back to the story. The Space Marines are downloading the info, and this is where the Mechanicum's thing of not allowing any new tech ever, it means that in 10,000 years, they haven't changed USB port configurations. I guess it makes sense. I mean, a bunch of years pass and you give a wee one a vinyl record and ask them to play it, or an 8-track, or a cassette, and they'll all be like, what do I do? And why would I think of spinning it around and putting a little needle on it? It's total archaic tech to them that they just can't fathom. The Space Marines' motto of first to engage, last to withdraw, not as catchy as the original Royal Engineers' motto of first in, last out. So, he bitterly has to inform command of a disastrous engagement. No glory in dying without cause, better to face failure than flee its consequence. Better to retreat and live to rectify it later. In comes the big honking chaos ship and they leg it into warp space. Okay, and then we are with the Necron. This should be interesting because the only thing I know about them is seeing them disintegrating people in that Games Workshop trailer, so it's going to be cool to see what they are about and how they interact. Right, first up, they speak in some kind of weird way, not beep boop boop beep, but rather a halting, each phrase spoken individually. I don't know yet if it's legit, but the narrator gives them definite emotion in their voices. I thought they might be emotionless Terminator automatons, but looks like that's not the case as they speak like this. So, we're with this floating female Necron plasmancer as she drifts through a human city, trying to recall what it was like to be organic and mortal, because now she is a soul in a manufactured body. She randomly disintegrates this one poor sap for funsies, and we see how they see us. They see us as all these molecules all held together by this tiny bond that is so easily pulled apart with their Gauss weapons, like War of the Worlds style, the 1950s one. The Necron want the city, and even though the human weapons are utterly primitive, they are still effective, and a lot of their troops are coming back to be reinstalled in a new body. The city is on the exact spot in which they want to set up a pylon thing, so there's something about this spot, like ley lines or something, or whatever power is causing people to feel that there's something nifty about this spot and they want to do things on it. So as I said, I don't know much about the Necrons. In the game, I'd heard mention of this regeneration protocol, so that when their body is destroyed, their soul is transmitted back to the tomb ship and they just crank out a fresh body for them to be installed in. Damn, that makes them pretty scary as a foe. Yes, they have finite numbers, and I guess no way to create or breed new souls, but they just keep body swapping, a production line of new bodies awaiting a soul. Death is just a minor inconvenience to them. Damn. Okay, the interaction between the upper hierarchy of the Necron. Dear God. Squabbling, petty, spiteful rivalries like a royalty, Egyptian, French, English, or like the tough officers in Sharp. I mean, this was actually kind of a shock for me. I had no inkling from all the artwork and the trailer that these soulless, grim walls of advancing mechanical nightmares is actually a social ladder climbing, vindictive, bickering, deranged ambition gang of children. Self-aggrandizing, egotistical, hubris, maniac. God damn, they're actually really quite unpleasant. So the female one, Arhotep, has been banished back to her tomb ship and she's wandering about contemplating how lonely the place feels. And it just hit me who they are reminding me of. And of course, Games Workshop being Games Workshop, I reckon this might actually be the source. The Galwald from Stargate. Immortal, super strong, body-swapping megalomaniacs with massive legions of totally obedient flunkies that are heartlessly marched into battle. Bickering amongst themselves, each dynasty try to take over and become numero uno, or to simp and ingratiate themselves to whoever is the current big thing. And the hits keep on coming as we get the pondering that the Necron all say out loud that they see their ascension to mechanical status as this perfect, great and logical leap forward for them, and that it's made them the perfect, most superior species in the galaxy. But they all fucking hate it. They grieve for what they have lost, but the party line is that this was the bee's knees and the best thing ever for them, so that's what they say out loud. They are literally all deluding themselves into thinking they are so advanced and better than everyone else, but inside they despise it and mourn what they have lost. Interesting. So then we are with this dude Zozar, who is a destroyer. I had to look up what these things are, and they are the tripod fellows. I think the ones that sliced open the sister's helmet in the trailer. Anyways, Zozar is with his wife and kids. They are riddled with lesions and sores and cancer, like all of them are, because of the radiation that bombards their world. Zozar has been working on the great machine that will liberate them from this terrible fate. Not a developer of the tech, just someone who helped with the design of the structure and such. One of his kids asks if this process will hurt. He assures them that it won't. The other asks as well, and he placates them by telling them that it will actually tickle, and he tickles them, so they all laugh. Oh, that's kind of sweet. So these guys are actually minor nobles, and so are on the fast track to get the treatment, and they walk into the rays, and he watches as his children are disintegrated. Not Dr. Manhattan style, but more Farscape series finale style. They just sort of crumble apart into little pieces. Zozar obviously loses it and turns to his wife, only to see her also crumbling apart to reveal the single glowing eye of her new Necron body. And he comes to because he has been activated. Bloody hell, this book doesn't fuck around. Zozar and the other destroyers are apparently kept in isolation because of their mental state. They exist in a state of constant abject grief and hatred and loathing and enraged frenzy. When they get returned to their bodies, they are consumed with the need to exercise the millions of years of regret they have been sitting on. All they want to do is kill, to destroy. They are consumed with guilt for having contributed to the process that did this to them all. Jesus, that's dark. I guess one could almost say a grimdark. Anywho, once they are let loose, there's no stopping them. No shit. Zozar starts wading into the people, hacking everything apart. The Gull Ward are trying to get him to focus on the Citadel and the actual soldiers, but he is all life must die, all life. And it takes some serious effort to get him to turn from slaughtering civilians and focusing on the military. So, Bubba Hotep is in her tomb ship and is seeing that the losses the Necron are sustaining are way over what it should be. And that's because the lead dude, Simets, is utterly incompetent. And this is something apparently common throughout the Necron dynasties. The Silent King has put Necron in charge that he can confide in and trust, not Necron who are good at their role. Yeah, he can trust them, but they are in no way qualified or skilled to be a war master or a warlord or a general. It's rather a good job that they can just keep making new bodies because their entire command hierarchy seems utterly inept. My view of the Necron, wow, boy did that change in just a few pages. Anyway, we're back with the Ultramarines and they are making very slow progress through the warp storms because they're really bad. But when aren't they though? I haven't read a book or watched a series yet where the warp has been nice and peaceful or even just cooperative. The navigator informs them that the more they operate in this area, the better they will get at it. But it's only been improving in tiny increments, and this is really annoying the Space Marines. Captain Aeschylus tells them that this is a ship of war and the navigators need to stop playing it so damn safe, take some goddamn risks. The navigator tries to assure them that they are not playing it safe. If they try to go faster and further, they risk everyone. The navigators, the Astartes and the crew. One misstep and it's all over. Eventually, Aeschylus has to flat out order her to step on it. Her navigator house has worked with the Ultramarines chapter for generations. If I have to let it be known that you're dead weight, well, then that's what I'll have to do. She leaves in a strop and Aeschylus lets out this monster breath, and his second, Praximides, then realises just how hard it has been for the captain to keep his annoyance in check and stay patient. Since the debacle with the warship trap, they've spent 92 days just crawling along and he's super anxious to get back into the fray. Aeschylus is on deck, and he is really starting to grate on everybody, because he is so impatient for battle, for action, he is pouncing on every little thing. He has sod all else to do, so he is basically nitpicking everything he sees. This is weird timing. At the time of making this, I had a boss who was doing this, and under that level of scrutiny, you get paranoid, and you make mistakes, which causes more scrutiny, which causes more paranoia, and you're in quicksand. The Astropath relays a message that they are to join a fleet under the command of this naval admiral, and Aeschylus is even more annoyed because he had gotten used to being his own man. He commands the ship, they fly around doing their thing, and now he'll have to take orders from a normal human. There's something else, but the Astropath won't say what it is. So what is it? Asks Aeschylus. Oh, it's nothing. It could have bounced off a warp lens. Then tell me what it is. It's a triviality. It could have passed through distortions. It could be centuries old. Then tell me what it is. It might not even be real. It might be a dream of some sort. Dude, just fucking tell me what you picked up. So he goes and calls up the message, and this explains his reluctance, because his body starts to freak out. He's moving backwards and spasming. The trauma of channeling this psychic email is obviously brutal. The message is the last emergency one sent by the Astropaths, who all got together to send a warning just before a destroyer barged in and chopped them into pieces. Aeschylus is all, well, clearly we need to go there and get stuck in. I mean, this is obviously an emergency. Sir, we have actual orders to go join the fleet. They don't know about this situation though, do they? Well, maybe we should inform them. Oh, there's no time for that. We have to get rolling immediately if we are to save these people. Aeschylus, you are so full of it. Is this a Primaris thing to play this fast and loose with the rules? It reminds me a lot of the Jem'Hadar, again Deep Space Nine. The Dominion cranked out a breed specifically for the Alpha Quadrant, and when the old school Firstborn accompanied these Alphas Primaris on their first mission, where they captured the Defiant, the Gammas were constantly trying to rein them in, because the new ones were rash and impulsive, had a bit of an ego. Sound familiar? 1. This may not have happened. 2. It may have happened years ago. 3. It may have occurred light years from here. 4. You have direct orders to join the fleet. Whatever, set sail for it immediately. Aeschylus is a bit of a rogue. Then we have the tooling up sequence, the armour going on, which always reminds me of that fan-made thing, the Raptor, which has since baffled me a little. If you check the comments, there's lots of bleating that it's a total rip from, I think, StarCraft, so much so that the creator had to start adding that it's a homage in the messages and in the description itself. Then Games Workshop basically does a scene-for-scene remake, and everyone is dancing in the streets. Personally, the lack of visor in the Games Workshop one really ruined it for me. It dropping into place at the end like a pair of sunglasses, and before then you see eyeballs all the way through. It's not a Games Workshop bad thing, I just think the Raptor truly just did it better. The Necron arrive at the end of another system, and they think they're facing just primitive screwheads, and there's no need to really take a look at tactics. They have millennia of battle reports that they have generated, a thorough catalogue of pre-programmed responses to every possible scenario. Okay, I'm sure this won't bite you in the arse. Right, Aeschylus' valiant charge into the glory of battle has clearly run into a few speed bumps. Now, after me mewling that the warp is always stormy in every book and animation, well, now it's actually becalmed. They can't go anywhere. They are in actual immaterium doldrums. Okay, I didn't know warp space could even do that. So they commit to a series of tiny warp skips. They used a little bit of momentum they get from the jump to cover a little bit of ground and then jump back out again. It's excruciatingly slow, and this will take dozens of jumps to cover what one could have done. But hey, it's progress. I guess all your moaning at the navigator really paid off, because you're just flying now, ain't you, Aeschylus? And all for what might be a fragment of a dream from thousands of years ago while you disobey orders. And then, well, after their next warp, hop, skip and jump, they actually get stuck. There's this area of nothing. Not warp, not real space. Are they going to detonate the warp drives? Is that the grimdark version of ejecting the warp core? The Geller field is actually at 140% because it's not pushing against anything, and so is just expanding. So there's no warp in the warp. Not sure what this is about. Now, because they are a ship that's supposed to operate on its own for a prolonged period of time, which is just peachy with Aeschylus, but the downside is they have oodles of supplies, so they are looking at a very long and slow death from starvation. However, by using an astropath signal, it gets a little itty-bitty ripple, a teensy tiny bit of traction, a sprinkle of grit on the ice, and there's been a warp engine detonation or something equally catastrophic, and there's a breach, a hole they can use to escape this empty zone. Trouble is, the Gellerfield is soaking up all their efforts. So the captain goes and just turns it off. Everyone loses their shit because he has just basically doomed everyone. Stuff starts to manifest and they're in obvious deep dark trouble, but they get out. Now, I thought they'd appear amongst the Necrons and it'd be on, but nope, they are on the edge of a system and there's this space station orbiting a moon nearby that's broadcasting a message on loop. It's this panicky dude who's threatening and pleading all at once. Threading? Anyways, they are letting an unknown and unnamed force know that if they mess with them, they'll kick their ass, but if they leave them alone, they can just help themselves to all the civilian pukes. What a diamond, typical Imperial tough. The Ithaca's vengeance starts closing on the station and docks with it. I thought all the people on board had been wiped out by the Necron, but nope, they just aren't doing anything. Literally. Apparently there's this warp malaise. The doldrums they were caught in and then the becalmed spot they got stuck in seems it's translating into real space. It makes sense. When your shadow self in the warp is in that effect, it's going to feed across into your physical body. The people on the station are useless. They aren't comatose, they are just standing around vacant, their essence suppressed. The null space affecting them quite profoundly. Is this a Necron thing? Is this something they do, like the shadow in the warp with the Tyranids? These soulless mechanicals creating a sort of smothered warp bubble. Is this what the resonators they are trying to set up do, or is this something innate? Anyway, the station is on the very edge of the system, just a nudge outside the gravity well. This means ships can translate out, dock, offload or load up, refuel and be on their way with minimal sublight crawling along. Okay, pretty smart. So it turns out they are indeed in the same system as the Necron. The Necron are attacking a bunch of agri-worlds deep in the system. Our Hotep is sulking on her ship and notices the Ithaca's vengeance leaving the warp. Now, rather than alert the fleet to the incoming threat, in proper Necron style, she decides to use this as a means to screw over her boss. She spies that she's right in the flight path if the human ship comes at them. So she calls up and says, the human forces we are engaged with on the agri-worlds could make a run at the resonator. It's a long shot, but maybe I should cruise on over there to protect it, seeing as I'm doing nothing much else. So when the humans come in blasting, she's nice and tucked away, and can also be all shocked and surprised. Where did these dudes come from? And to further stick it to her boss, she does the one ping only to verify position, and this ping reveals to the Imperials the location of every Necron ship, and then she slinks aside, twirling her robo-mustache. The Imperial forces come thundering in. There's not enough ships to carry all of the Astartes down because there's like 2,000 of them, so they're opting for several different deployment methods all at once. But first, the warp malaise doesn't seem to affect the Primaris that much, and not only does it not affect them, but when you are around them, its effects are lessened on you as well. So when Primaris are supervising, people are actually functional and can get things done. They regain some faculties. So when the fight starts, the Imperials will get a taste of being a Tyranid player. When you have troops out of Synapse, they become bloody useless. So the thing that's suppressing the normal humans is called the Overnull. I'll have to look into that. Okay, it's an anti-psychic field they can generate, doesn't affect them, messes with anything warp related, so I guess demons are screwed, humans get squiffy, and I guess Tau must then be minimally affected? Anyway, Simmons starts getting reports of an enemy ship, but when they try and look, they aren't getting anything, and so they just assume it's a glitch, until it opens up on them. They are dismissive of its weapons when they scan it, some plasma, some energy, some large bore chemical weapons. Really? That's it? That caveman stuff can't hurt us. Kablamo! Energy lances open up the Necron ships, carving them open, and then cannon pour in. The Necrons give a full reprisal, but the null field has caused the void shields to now be operating at heightened efficiency, and they absorb the whole barrage. And then drop pod assault begins, carrying Astartes down onto the planet's surface. The gunships make for the capital ship because the energy lances weren't trying to destroy it, but rather create entry points so that the rest of the Space Marines can pour on in. And it's like being on a board ship. There's all these creations puttering around, doing their program thing, ignoring the invaders until they actually do some damage. Aeschylus wants to know where the enemy are and so calls for an Auspex scan, but there's nothing, because the Necron are the exact same stuff as what the ship is made of, like scanning a Tyranid bioship for Tyranids. Yep, there's Tyranids alright. Where? Well, everywhere. It is one. So then they get noticed and everything turns from repairs to engaging the Space Marines. Something big is detected coming their way, and then they say 3 yards wide. Yards? Really? Everything has been in meters in every book so far. Why the sudden change? Trying to appeal to the US market, or is the UK giving up on metric? Anyway, they come across what might be an energy source, and they call in the Mechanicus with big honking piles of explosive and protected by gun servitors. I wonder how much of the explosives we should actually use. I know, how about we just use the lot? It's how you do a hit and run. You get in, place the charges, and get out before you get bogged down by enemy troops, and then you have to detonate with you still on board. Sivets can feel the humans on board like parasites in his gut. So you had that sensation when you were organic and you can recall it? Okay, too much information. So, Necrons do remember a lot of their life. It's not chopped up like with the destroyers. Earlier, he was reminiscing about the festivals they used to have, the parties distracting them from the skin blight that was affecting everyone, and how when they get their bodies back, he's going to throw a festival that makes the ones of old look like a paltry effort. After recalling how gut rot feels, his lieutenant is activating troops, much to Simmett's chagrin. He is tempted to chop his head off, not to kill him, but rather to just admonish him, because he can just be repaired. And the reason he doesn't is because he'd then have to sully his cortical input by connecting with the lower ranks. Yeesh, what is this, Robo-Egyptian Sharp? This guy is so Simerson. Wait a minute, maybe he's the inspiration. I mean, the name is even similar. Simmets, Simerson. Okay, and now we have the great plan of the Necron. What they are actually trying to do. They are trying to still the Eversea once and for all, to become the entire warp. Well, okay, that's pretty ambitious. I mean, that'll shut chaos up. And then, with the inferior species incapable of space travel, they will be ripe for enslaving. But, okay, I can see a supervillain thinking flaw here. You still the warp. No more warp travel. But surely everyone will all be listless and zonked out by the galactic null field. Not exactly the most industrious and useful slaves, but then again, not like you need them toiling in the fields to grow food for your Necron overlords or build your pyramids. Do they just want slaves on general principle to, feel like big shots again, like it's a prestige thing? Anyway, the explosives go off and damn near crack open a third of the ship. It loses power and starts to sink into the atmosphere and burn up. And of course, Simerson jumps into character.
Forget the resonator, come and save me. Coward.
God. And he broadcasts it with such a powerful command protocol that our Hotep doesn't even have time to roll her eyes before she is jumping to it, his orders overriding everything. And just like in Sharp, he's legging it and deserting his men. Sigh. These are a really, really odd species, and I am flummoxed how utterly different they are from what I was expecting. I was expecting something like a little more Borg or Terminator, a little more single-minded and cold, not so emotional and, well, whiny. On the surface, Zozar realizes that he is now doomed. The ship is burning up and the resurrection stuff is going up with it, which is why Simmets needs an extraction. If he goes down with the ship, it's permanent. Zozar is facing death for the first time ever. Not fear of death, but fear of failure. Fear of not having wiped out all life before his time ends. What a lovely sentiment. Simmets legs it out and gets on board our Hotep's vessel, and for a split second she considers offing him. But then all of his Lich Guard teleport in around him. He lost almost 3/4 of his entire army with this botch, and I mean lost for good. I know the Silent King thinks you are a bud, but when 75% of this Necron fleet is dead forever, unresurrectable, I think he may have some choice words for you. Aeschylus is all mad now that the thrill of battle is fading, and because he managed to do in seconds more than any of the other Imperials did in weeks, is it cowardice or lack of leadership? Dude, take it down a notch. You lot managed to get a surprise attack on an entire fleet due to a power struggle in the higher command where one of them flat out covered for you. You also managed to select the ship that not only had the Warlord on it, but was the place resurrecting the Necron. And not only did you manage to place explosives accidentally on a core system, and also you just happened to pull this off while the ship was in orbit over a planet. If it hadn't have been, it would have just floated there and started self-repairing, not plunging in the atmosphere and burning up. Plus, you are Primaris and are the only ones not hampered by the null thing. You are just exceedingly jammy, Aeschylus. Your astonishing luck shouldn't cast shade on others. Just because you rolled nothing but 6s on everything you tried to do, don't go looking down on the poor fools rolling those 1s. Aeschylus is going to off the Imperial commander for surrendering, but the astropath tries to convince him that this is just a guy trying to save as much as possible. Plus, coming in and executing the lead Imperial and helping yourself to his troops, well, that's a coup, and Space Marines are explicitly not allowed to do this except on their own recruitment worlds. And now we get the actual purpose of the Indomitus Crusade. It's a mission statement. It's to reunite humanity because since the heresy, everything has been kinda sliding downhill. The Great Crusade was to reconnect all the worlds who have been left alone and lost and thought they were just all that was left. They all get unified, then along comes the heresy to sow doubt in the Imperium, and then along come the Tyranids and the Orcs and the Drukhari and now the Necrons as well. So Indomitus is to reassure everyone that the Imperium is still strong and to stand firm to restore their faith. We have a Primarch back in charge, so stick with us. Things may be tough now, but good times are on their way. Indomitus is basically a PR crusade. Aeschylus comes in and is going to kill Lowenstein, the guy who made the surrender broadcast, but he is thrown that the guy is not afraid. He's actually quite stoic. Do you feel you deserve death? Well, I'd prefer to live, and he explains that when the Malays took everyone, there was no chance to defend anything. No coherent resistance could even be attempted. But up here on the station, while it was bad, it wasn't as bad as everywhere else in the system. So when he extended the invite to take everything else if they would just leave the station alone, and if they tried to take it, they'd meet vigorous defense, well, that was actually him laying out the truth. The station was the only place that could actually fight back. But Aeschylus recalls how grovelling the message was and questions if this was a ruse. Well, no, I was going to surrender, but only until the opportunity presented itself to start going guerrilla. Aeschylus, for a Primaris captain, you ain't too bright. I mean, it didn't occur to you that the message was anything other than as presented? Maybe I'm being too tough on him. I would have hoped that a Space Marine, though, might have had a bit more perception than that. But then I am down with Aeschylus again, because he lowers his sword, because his goal is not to kill the enemies of the Imperium, but rather to unite it. Their will to live and fight was being sucked out of them by the hour, and so he made a play to try and save who he could. If the people on the station had lost the will to act or live, I can't imagine what it's like on the planets getting it full force. They must be totally moribund, just laying in the streets wheezing for every breath. And then Simmons is crying. Why is my awesome ship a ruin? Which of my underlings failed me? Okay, you pranny, we have seen from your wonderfully courageous last stand that you have absolute and total control over even your most senior officers, and you are looking for who screwed up. Even a lieutenant who hates your guts, one who you took control of all of her troops from, even she had to drop everything and come running when you blubbed. And then it gets even worse. I really do not care for the Necron now. They are just despicable. He ponders that the Imperials didn't go for the resonator, which is the most vital thing in the fleet. Oh no, what does that mean? It means they were coming for him. Someone must have betrayed him. Okay, going with Stargate, the enemy translate into system and see this. Which one of these ships is the most important one? The little ones? the medium-sized ones, or the big honking one right smack dab in the very centre of the fleet, almost like it's coordinating the others. Which one would you focus fire on and your attention on? And yet Galaxy Brain here thinks it was an assassination run on him specifically. Okay, the Necron have incredibly advanced tech. They have astonishing weapons and capabilities, but boy, they are fucking idiots. So Ahotep is somewhat annoyed, not only because Simmons is on her ship, that he has total control of everything and is rummaging around, but his incompetence is like a virus and will infect everything here. The gal ain't far off the mark. So she goes to this room that is sealed off from all the other Necrons save her kind, plasmancers I guess, and she has this clone copy of herself to stand outside to make it seem like she's puttering away on trivial things in there. And once inside, she reports back to her guys. It turns out the dickhead wasn't entirely off the mark with the I am betrayed role. The other dynasties are aware that they are trying to quell the Eversea, but Simmons is so incompetent that it'll never happen. But if he gets replaced, they may put someone in charge who can actually pull this off. The Destroyer. His children were resurrected so many times that they just became lost amongst the faceless, mindless ranks of troops. His wife had such a strong connection to her flesh that even though she was given the body of a queen, she went insane, and he killed her in a way to prevent resurrection. And he has tried to off himself countless times, but just keeps getting rebuilt and rehoused. Dear God. I'm torn between feeling profoundly sorry for Necrons and then just being incredibly irritated by them. Anywho, other dynasty ships are on the way and Simmons wants to get the resonator placed before they get here so they can't take any of the credit for it. Anyway, Ahotep informs him that the incoming dynasties could still try and subvert his command protocols and take control of his forces, but if they share command, they won't be able to, so she's still working to screw him over every chance she gets. Once he agrees like an idiot, she heads to her secret comms booth and starts looking into the human broadcasts, so she can try and find a way to draw their attention to the resonator, because if they take that out, well then Simmons and the dynasties are just royally screwed. She finds a little broadcast and it's an Independence Day style plea for peace. You can have this land, we'll have this land, we don't need to continue fighting, we can coexist. Meanwhile, down on the surface, the Astartes are moving out into this untilled field because the Necron aren't as hot in hand-to-hand combat, so they want to take advantage of that. Power swords go to work, the gunships make strafing runs, the guys on the bikes keep nibbling at the rear, but then all the guardsmen are succumbing to the melees and their lines are breaking, which forces the Marines to get in there to steady their lines, which starts to work until massive Necron reinforcements start to teleport in. Uh-oh.
Things are looking bleak.
Well spotted, Eddie.
Simmons wants to go down and lead the final assault in person, but he's still too much of a fraidy cat and he's terrified of assassination or someone taking over while he's away. So he pulls the old, "Oh, my presence is needed here, I'm way too important to go down there." Ahotep wants to lead the attack on the space station and Simmons questions her motivation. She professes that it's because she hasn't fed in ages and she wants to drain it dry of energy. Simmons goes into smug mode, thinking she is weak and easily manipulated. Keep telling yourself that, pal. I am fairly certain she has a plan and you ain't gonna like it. Okay, so the Necron want to retake the mantle of the universe and enslave everyone. But what about the destroyers? They are fanatically pledged to killing absolutely everything. Can they switch them off if they win, get them back into that storage situation? But what if they get out? Would this be a Necron civil war, the destroyers versus the rest of the race, with one side trying to kill everything and the other side trying to protect them? The ancient Egyptian goal thing of wanting to rule over multitudes of slaves, is that because of the command protocols? When Necron leaders give a command, it is immediately and undeniably obeyed. Where's the thrill in that? They can't lord it over people, make people do what they want out of fear or awe, They are basically just programming robots. If all your subjects are programmed to obey without question, what's the point of being king or emperor? If you are like an egomaniac like these ruling Necrons clearly are, you'll want to dominate and revel in your rule. So is the enslavement of all life so they can get their lordship jollies on because their own race are just compliant? It'll give them a taste of what it was like when they were organic beings bossing around the little people. And another aspect of their need to be glorified as royals, their ridiculous simpering titles. Yes, O majestic traveller of the world seas. Yes, O bestrider of the galactic cosmos. Indeed, O low-slung bottom burp of the trouser planets. Yes, O glittering little finger of the untrammelled puffy clouds. Our Hotep rummages around in the station systems and finds weapon control. Score! Meanwhile, the Space Marines have realised that there are 5 capital ships coming in, and they are barely holding 2, one of which they've taken out. So, plot twist, our Hotep is secretly a member of this dynasty that Simics and the others had thought had been eradicated, like the Jakarutu in Dune. There's no explanation as to why, but Necron being Necron, I'm sure it's something ridiculously trivial, like our Hotep's dynasty hung the toilet paper back and over, and the Silent King is a over and forward kind of dude. Our Hotep turns the weapon stations on the Necron ships and starts ripping them up. Then Lowenstein calls up Aeschylus and lets him know that this is the last time we'll speak. Aeschylus immediately goes knee-jerk reaction. You traitor, I'll get you for this. If it's the last thing I'll do, I'll make you pay for this betrayal. You heretic, you scum, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Primaris, if you would pause, wipe the rabid foam from your chin for a sec, and shut up and listen. He's actually shutting down the engines that keep them in orbit. A Necron contacted him and told him what the vital thing in their fleet is, and he's going to slam the station into it, killing everyone but taking it out. And with this act, the Necrons stop fading out when they die. They can now be killed perm. On the surface, the Primaris start chopping up Zozar, and he realises that this is it. He has failed in his goal, and he'll die, and he gets a final vision of his radiation-burned, scab, tumour and sore-encrusted wife smiling at him. The strike cruiser makes a run for the edge of the system so it can get out of the gravity well and make a warp jump so they can warn the rest of the fleet of the Necron presence here. The Necron are closing fast and it looks like they won't succeed, but then they spot an asteroid field. They dive in and the Necron get bogged down among the rocks as the Ithaca's vengeance dodges through and successfully translates to the Immaterium. On the surface, Aeschylus and everyone else prepare to make their last stand. The soul dampening is rising, the rest of the fleet is appearing. This is obviously it. The Necron are also now starting to resurrect. Aeschylus draws his sword and gives it a duty is its own reward, and it's a butch and Sundance ending, with Necron Gaussfire and Fuego in Necronese. And that's it. Okay, a pretty good book. Aeschylus had his flaws, but was otherwise pretty likeable. The Necron were interesting, if annoying, but it did give you a really decent look at their society and history, what they are after, what they can do, what motivates them. I'm actually interested in seeing some more about our Hotep, maybe learn about her shattered dynasty. I've only listened to the first 5 heresy books so far. This is my first jaunt into the modern era, and it was pretty good. No massive plot twists, no events that change the course of history. It's a strike cruiser of Primaris blundering into a Necron invasion, and they try and hold out long enough to get a warning out. Simple, but fun. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for that kind of stuff.